Hello, Buteyko community. I'm joined here today with a fellow community member. Can you share with us how your journey started with Buteyko breathing?
Well, going back a few years, I had seasonal allergies, and then the allergies just were all year round. And then I had some major sinus issues. And then about 2 years ago, I got bronchitis around the death of my mother, which was all due to the stress of that, I think, as well as not taking care of myself at all. And after that, I developed asthma. Um, so I went to see doctors and got put on um, different medicines and drugs for it, but I still didn't. I just didn't feel very good, and I still remember the day really well. It was towards the end, mid-October of last year, 2020. But I was just lying in my studio here, feeling miserable and just exhausted. I was tired all the time. I never slept well, and at that time there was the Embodiment Conference that the Breathing Center appeared on, and I'd signed up for it, and I just sort of propped myself up on my elbow and I thought, oh, who's on today? Let's see if I can find some kind of distraction or from my misery. And I looked up breathing. I think it was breathing for healing, breathing for health. And I saw Sasha. I clicked on and listened to her for a whole hour and just signed up with her right away. I felt I was at the bottom of everything. I did not know what else to do. I tried a lot of different things. I'd seen a lot of different people. I even had nasal surgery that didn't work. Everything filled up again after 4 or 5 weeks. And so after I saw her and had the initial session, I signed up for seeing her every week for 3 months. So it's been quite the journey, a beautiful journey, but very emotional too.
So tell us a little bit, let's rewind a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your background, your professional background.
Well, I was born in London, and I always was very active as a kid. And from a very young age, I wanted to be a dancer. And I did it. I mean, that's still like a little miracle, really. But I ended up becoming a professional dancer with London Contemporary Dance Theatre in London, which was very big in the 70s and 80s. I joined at a great time and we toured the world. It was just the most fantastic career. Very hard, very disciplined, very dedicated. That's all I did, rehearsed and came home and performed. That was my life. And then I moved to America and became a massage therapist, went to massage school in New Mexico. And also taught Pilates for many years here, and gyrotonic, which is a different movement system, exercise system, very incorporating lots of spirals and twists. Beautiful system, actually. And then I stopped teaching last year, partly due to my stress level, I think. I just felt so tired all the time, and I ended up only being able to teach 3 hours a day and just coming home and just lying around because I couldn't get my energy back up again. A year and a half later, that's when I met Sasha. I'm very glad I did.
So with that background, how were you taught to breathe? And when you look back, how were you breathing?
That's a good question. Well, there's lots of different ways to breathe. There are singers too, but it's not that specific. I was taught to breathe into my ribs, into my back, and also as a dancer, you couldn't let your stomach hang out. So I was always pulling in my stomach and breathing so that my stomach wouldn't move at all. And then, of course, when dance is very aerobic, you end up panting because you can't breathe through your nose. If you're throwing yourself around for 20 minutes, it's almost impossible to do. So I think I developed that, was at a fairly young age because I was very active. But according to Sasha, I've probably been mouth breathing my whole life, because that's the hardest part for me, is to consistently breathe through my nose. Yeah, and then and the different fitness systems too that I taught, that there were different breathing requirements, especially with gyrotonic, lots of different breath patterns, which are great if you're not sick like I was. So I hope to go back to those one day, but I have to get through the next stage of my healing, I think.
So fast forward, you completed level 1 and 2 training, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So let's talk about your experience with the level 1 and level 2. I know oftentimes there are many people who have great success. Sometimes it's really fast success. Sometimes it's really slow success. And I think that it's all around dependent on everybody's own journey. So let's talk about your journey and how that unfolded with the level 1 and level 2. What was that like going through that training?
Gosh, it was digging very deep into myself, I think. I had some very dark days, and all due to changing my breath pattern. And then just coughing and lots of congestion, and I haven't slept well. When I lie down, it gets worse.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And now I can hear a wheeze at the top of my breath. And then I was a professional dancer, and I still like to work out. And I went to a dance class yesterday, and we all have to wear masks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's so hard for me doing aerobic work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and I'm breathing through my mouth, and I'm trying to do these steps, and I just couldn't do it. I was just exhausted.
Of course,
I just
yeah.
had to stop. And I was so upset. I was just thought, I can't, I don't feel that old. And yet I feel like, I'm just doing less and less in my life because of this. I feel I can't go out too much because I'm allergic to the plants, which is crazy, but I am. And then I just walked down the road to my neighbor to pick up some eggs, and coming back, I can feel my breath. I can feel that it's an effort. And then I have to sleep every day in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wake up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes get very restless. My legs ache, my muscles ache a bit. And then when I wake up, if I'm awake for long enough, I start sneezing. It's like my whole body gets activated, and I sneeze and sneeze. And then I'm wide awake. I have to get up. I have to make some tea. I get through 6 or 7 tissues full of gunk, and then I go back to bed and try to sleep. So that happened last night. I was up for 2 hours. Because once I start sneezing, it takes a whole hour for everything to calm down again. I found it hard to understand. It took a long time for me to really realize how useful a different way of breathing was to me. I was a little resistant at first, I think. There were some days that I felt great, and then other days when I didn't. And I have to say, it wasn't really, I think it was a challenge for Sasha too, because I couldn't breathe through my nose at all. I was very stuffy the whole time, even doing all the different exercises you can do for a stuffy nose. And after 2 months, I was still stuffed up, which meant that I couldn't breathe through my nose, especially at night, even if I had my mouth taped. And I was just at a loss of what I could do next. But I persisted doing my 3 sessions a day. And then it didn't happen really suddenly, but in the scheme of things, it felt like it did. Within a week, suddenly my nose started to clear up. And then once my nose started to clear, I could breathe through my nose, I was sleeping. And I haven't slept properly for probably for at least 8 years or so, especially the last 2 years. Hours and hours of lying awake at night, just wired up. So the whole thing calmed my nervous system down, along with the meditation and the breathing exercises. So it took about 9 weeks before that happened. And then I felt I was into the second part of the journey, which I'm on now. I feel I have some ways to go. And I'll always be working with this too. I know that.
Did you ever feel like you just want to quit and walk away from this during the training at all?
Yes, I did. I got very frustrated and cried a lot. I also had some therapy because I felt the weight of my mother's death and the stress of dealing with her life was weighed on me. And that was very, very helpful to this progress. Really lightened everything up. But there were some dark days where I felt I wasn't going to improve. But Sasha was very, very firm and very positive and said, if you do this 100%, you will get better. And I always remember that when I have my dark days, you know, but they're not as dark as they were.
Thank you for being honest about that, because I think that, you know, healthy breathing is flow, and you can't have flow when you've got certain, let's say, blockages or roadblocks you've got to work through, and we all have them. We all have these things we have to work through, and it's sometimes it's just not easy, and that is part of this. It is part of the journey. So it sounds like you met yourself, you met the mirror a couple times and worked through it, and then now you're on to the next, and now experiencing more flow than you did at the beginning. So can you speak to any of what you're feeling now, like versus then?
I feel more relaxed. I feel more flow in my life. I have more energy. I was always napping before. Would always have to take a nap. Sometimes it would be 2 hours in the afternoon. That hasn't happened for probably 2 months. I mean, I've lain down and rested, but not gone out, you know, because now I can sleep at night. I'm sleeping a good 8 hours a night now. I mean, I still have days when I get irritated and wonder how much more I'll improve or where this will end, but I don't think there is an end. I mean, this is my new life. My new life with breathing, you know, working on breathing correctly, or more correctly for my asthma, which comes back now and again. I get wheezy, but I know how to control it, which is the other thing that I can do too. Whereas before I didn't know what to do. Now I know if I sit quietly and just calm my breath and breathe slowly, it goes away. And I can do this in bed too. When I'm lying in bed, it starts to crackle in my chest. I can calm everything down with it without even getting up. Whereas before I used to have to get up and go through more of a protocol, really. So
How was your experience working with Sasha?
it was great. I so enjoyed working with her. Very caring, very firm, but very loving too. And I guess she has really great boundaries about working with people. I like that. The other thing is I could email her whenever I wanted about any problems I had, and she would always get back to me. Sometimes very lengthy emails too, and sometimes very short and to the point about what she felt I needed to do. And sometimes I would think, I don't know about that, Sasha. And then later on down the line, I'd realize she was right. I've talked to other people about that, said the same thing.
So are you currently in the mastermind group? Is that
Yes, I
correct?
am. Yes.
So how's that going?
Oh, it's wonderful. Yes, we've done 2 Sunday sessions. We're up for a third one this weekend, and starting to introduce tempering, hot and cold. And here in New Mexico, it's warming up now, but I got outside and walked on the flagstones, and when it was snowing, I was in the snow, getting my feet very cold and running back in, and then having cold showers, which is okay. I mean, it's still a shock, but it's actually very invigorating.
So you described how much you were suffering and your journey through that and out the other side to the point where you joined the mastermind group, which mastermind group is only open to people who have completed at least the level 1 and 2 courses. So it sounds like you've come light years from where you were. What would you like to share? Is there any bits of wisdom that you have, especially for somebody who's back where you were, just starting out and just trying to find the answers? Do you have any bits of wisdom for those people who may be watching this and wondering if they should take this program?
I think people have to have a lot of discipline to do this. They have to be willing to go for it and try it, and to have faith in their teachers, whoever it may be, Sasha or Jessie or anyone else, and just to keep at it, give themselves a good chunk of time. I thought that somehow after 2 or 3 weeks it would suddenly be better. I don't think that's always the case, although it depends on what you have, what's going on with you. So you have to have a lot of faith in your teacher, and I give them both Jessie and Sasha a lot of credit for doing that work. It takes a lot of patience and dedication, which their students need to have too. Also, I think she almost gave up. I don't think she knew quite what to do because of the whole idea is to nose breathe, and I couldn't nose breathe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had maybe every few minutes I might be able to take a breath through one nostril and then it close up.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, it was, and then it just suddenly changed, what seemed like it anyway. I mean, it was like a miracle to me.
Is there anything about kind of your new Buteyko world, anything that is your favorite, any breathing exercise or anything that you just really enjoy? What's the most enjoyable thing that you've learned so far?
Well, being able to breathe through my nose is bliss, but that's more an anatomical thing. I think sometimes a meditation is hard, but when I actually can drop into it, I feel so good from that. And I feel that's going to be my new, I will be doing that for the rest of my life. I feel it's absolutely essential for my well-being.
To live and to breathe and to move as a dancer and even as a Pilates instructor, you become ingrained in those behaviors and that way of being. Do you feel like this training was a contradiction to any of that and you found struggle with that? Did any of that have to kind of be rewritten within you?
Yes, I think so. I mean, Sasha actually had to calm me down voice-wise on the Zoom. She said, are you a teacher? And when I told her, as a teacher, you have to be larger than life, and then as a dancer, you do. Yeah. So you're presenting yourself in a very large way with your voice as a teacher, and then a very even larger way with your whole body. So there's a huge amount of energy and force and direction that goes out with that. So I'm looking at it like that. It's almost like everything has to come back into the body, and it's almost like I spent so many years going out of myself, that now everything is coming back in for me, to me. And it's a huge reckoning.